Chris scanned for the next door, saw a plain fireplace against one wall, a broken chair in a corner, and a single door that apparently led back into the bedroom he'd searched earlier. A hidden passage that he'd missed and that led to the very room in which they stood. Must have been behind the bookcase. There was no way finding out. Killing the plant had been a waste of time. It hadn't been blocking anything. Rebecca looked as disappointed as he felt, her shoulders slumped, an expression grim as she studied the bare walls. I'm sorry, Rebecca. They both walked slowly around the room, Chris staring at the dead plant and trying to decide what to do next. Rebecca walked to the fireplace and crouched down next to it, poking at the blackened ash. He wouldn't drag her back to the mansion. Neither of them were up for it. Even with the extra ammo, there were too many snakes. They could wait in the courtyard for Brad to fly by again, hope he got into range. Chris, I found something. He turned and saw her pull a couple of pieces of paper out of the ashes, the edges scorched, but both sheets otherwise intact. He walked across the room and leaned down to read over her shoulder and felt his heart start pounding as the first words sank in. Security protocols, basement level 1. Heliport for executive use only. This restriction may not apply in the event of any emergency. Unauthorized persons entering the heliport will be shot on sight. Elevator. The elevator stops during emergencies. Basement level 2. Visual data room. For use by the Special Research Division only. All other access to the visual data room must be cleared with 𝘱𝘻, room manager. Basement level 3. Prison/Sanitation Division controls the use of the prison. At least one consultant researcher, E. Smith, S. Ross, A. Wesker, must be present if viral use is authorized. Power room. Access limited to headquarters supervisors. This restriction may not apply to consult researchers with special authorization. Basement level 4. Regarding the progress of Tyrant after use of T-virus. The rest of the paper was burned, the words lost. A. Wesker, Chris said softly. Captain Albert goddamn Wesker. Barry had said that Wesker disappeared right after the Alphas had made it to the house, and it was Wesker who led us here in the first place when the dogs attacked. Cool, competent, unreadable Wesker, working for Umbrella. Rebecca flipped to the second page and Chris leaned in, studying the neatly typed labels beneath the drawn boxes and lines. Mansion, courtyard, guardhouse. underground laboratories. There was even a compass drawn next to the sketch of the mansion to show them what they'd missed, a secret entrance to the underground hidden behind the waterfall. Rebecca stood up, eyes wide and uncertain. Captain Wesker is involved with all this? Chris nodded slowly. And if he's still here, he's down in those labs, maybe with the rest of the team. If Umbrella sent him here, God only knows what he's up to. They had to find him, had to warn whoever was left of the stars that Wesker had betrayed them all. Everything was done. Wesker stepped into the elevator that led back to level 3, running through his checklist as he lowered the outer gate and slid the inner one closed. Samples collected, disks erased, power reconnected, Tyrant support off. It was looking really bad in regards to the Tyrant. Ugly as it was, the thing was a marvel of surgical, chemical, and genetic engineering, and he'd stood in front of its glass chamber for a long time, studying it in silent awe before reluctantly shutting down its life support. As the stasis fluids had drained, he'd found himself imagining what it would have been like to see it in action once the researchers had completed their work. It would have been the ultimate soldier, a thing of beauty in the battlefield. And now it had to be destroyed, all because some idiot tech had hit the wrong button. Mistake that had cost Umbrella millions of dollars and killed the researchers who had created it. He hit the switch, and the elevator thrummed to life, carrying him back up for his final task, activating the triggering system at the back of the power room. He'd given himself 15 minutes to make sure he was clear of the blast radius, climbed down the heliport ladder, hit the back road toward town, and boom, no more hidden Umbrella facility. At least, not in Raccoon Forest. Once he got back into the city, he'd pack a bag and head for Umbrella's private airstrip. He could make the necessary calls from there, let his contacts in the White Office know what had happened. They'd have a cleanup team standing by to comb through the forest and take out the surviving specimens, and they'd be most eager to get their hands on the sample tissues he'd taken, 2 of everything except for the Tyrant. With the Tyrant scientists all dead, Umbrella had decided to shelve the project indefinitely. Wesker thought it was a mistake, but then he wasn't getting paid to think. As the elevator slid to a stop, Wesker opened the gates and stepped out, setting down the sample case. He unholstered his Beretta, going over the twisting layout of the power room in his mind. He had to make another run through the MA2s to get to the activation system. He'd already managed it once to hook up the elevator circuit, but they had been more active than he'd expected. Instead of weakening them, their hunger had driven them to new heights of viciousness. He'd been lucky to make it through unscathed. At a hydraulic hum from down the hall, Wesker froze. Footsteps clattered across the cement floor, hesitated, and then started for the power room at the opposite end of the corridor. Wesker eased up to the corner and looked down the hall, just in time to see Jill Valentine disappear through the metal doors, a burst of hissing mechanical noise echoing through the corridor before they closed. How did she make it through the hunters? Jesus. Apparently, he'd underestimated her, and she'd been alone, too. If she was that good, the MA2s might not kill her, and she had effectively just blocked him from the triggering system. He wouldn't be able to deal with the creatures that roamed the maze like walkways and put a stop to her prying. Frustrated, Wesker scooped up the sample case and walked quickly down the hall, back toward the hydraulic doors that led to the main corridor of level 3. If she made it back out, he'd just have to shoot her. It would only delay his escape for a few minutes. Still, it was an unexpected curve, and as far as he was concerned, it was too late in the game for surprises. Surprises pissed him off. They made him feel like he wasn't in control. I am in control. Nothing is happening here that I can't handle. This is my game, my rules, and I will accomplish my mission without any interference from that little thief bitch. Wesker stalked out into the main corridor and saw that Jill had managed to take out a few more of the wizened, withered scientists and technicians that wandered the basement labs. 2 of them lay just outside the door, their skulls blown into 𝘈𝘰𝘯𝘪𝘴 by what looked like shotgun blasts. He kicked one of them angrily, his boot crunching into the corpse's brittle ribs, the dry snap of bone loud in the silence. Except that suddenly, he heard heavy boots coming down the metal stairs from B2, the hollow clump echoing through the hall, and then a rough, hesitant voice calling out, Jill? Barry Burton, as I live and breathe. Wesker raised his weapon coolly, ready to fire when Barry stepped into view, and then lowered it thoughtfully. After a moment, a slow grin spread across his face.